Alright guys, so today I'm doing a video on the trapper knife, and I'm going to show y'all all my trappers, and then I'm going to talk about the trapper knife, not so much the history. I'm just going to talk about the traditional trapper knife as an EDC knife. So the first two that I'm going to show you right here are the two trapper knives that I have in chrome vanadium, and these just happen to be the two that I carry every day. I mean, not both of them every day, but I carry one of these almost every day, along with a CV Jumbo Stockman that y'all probably seen before. So I guess because they're CV, I like to carry them, and I like to watch the patina develop. Patina is kind of hard to capture on camera sometimes, but there's a lot of color in these blades right here, and it's just fun to carry a CV knife because number one, they hold an edge better, and number two, you get to watch that patina develop. And so this is all natural. I didn't force a patina. Pretty much what I like to do is just peel an apple once a day or pretty often, and a lot of times when the wife needs stuff cut up in the kitchen, I'll grab one of these and wipe the blade off and slice potatoes or peel potatoes or whatever she needs done. But I've got a lot of trappers, and so these two right here get the most pocket time out of the trapper collection. But this one here's the pocket worn whiskey bone, and you can tell that it's pretty smooth. It's got a lot of that pocket worn feature to it. I like the way these pocket worn knives feel, and that's the whole point. They're supposed to feel like a good used knife right out of the box. But at the same time, it's kind of like buying a relic guitar. It's like, well, basically you rubbed all the finish off before you even got to play it. So I don't know what I really think about pocket worn. As far as a knife like this that's not pocket worn, you know, you're going to get a lot more pocket use or pocket wear out of this one before it starts to look like that. Anyway, just my two thoughts on pocket worn. But this one here, same thing, amber bone, a classic case knife color for a bone handle. Like I said, another CV knife here, gets carried a lot. Let's see, I'm gonna move on pretty quick because I've got a lot of these trappers. Here is another standard trapper, 54 pattern. I've shown this one before. This one has the 2000 shield, which is kind of neat, and the tank stamp is a little different. Instead of having dots, X's and dots, it simply has a case and a 2000 right there, so that's pretty neat. This knife here is typical stainless steel knife. It's constructed pretty well, no gapping. Blades are centered up pretty nice. All right, moving along. Here's a knife that my in-laws gave me back before they both passed away. This knife means a lot. This was the first case knife that they bought me after I sort of became like a collector. And this was a very nice knife. I'm sure it was a lot of money. This is a Sportsman series. This knife came in a metal tin, and it also had a little suede pouch that it can go in. But they got it for me because they know I like shotguns, and this is the first knife I ever received with a shotgun shell case XX shield. And you see it's got the pheasant engraving, scrimshaw, whatever you want to call it. This is actually engraved into the bone. You can feel it when you rub your fingers across it. So it's not going to rub off, or at least it's not going to rub off quickly. You'd have to really rub the bone down to get that off of there. So pretty neat knife, and I cherish it for the fact that they got it for me. Once again, it's constructed really well. And so moving on, this was another gift from my in-laws. Oh goodness, I'm sorry about that. This was another gift from my in-laws, and I think this is antique barn board, maybe, is what they call the jigging on that. I've heard people call it other things like molasses bone, but I think it's called antique bone, and it's barn board jig. If I'm wrong, y'all can correct me. But this one has a kind of a unique shield. I've got other trappers with this shield, but it's a little different than what you typically see. Once again, this knife put together pretty well. And that one's stainless also. I guess all the rest of these are stainless. The first two were CV, and I already showed you those. This one here was a kind of a unique one. This one has a slanted bolsters. It's the only case knife that I have with slanted bolsters. And it also has the bomb shield. And I don't think I have any other knives with the bomb shield. So I always liked the bomb shield, thought it was kind of neat. This one had it and the slanted bolsters. This one is a hunter green, and it's really dark, so it almost looks black except for right here on the ends and the edges. But this knife looks really good outside. When you're outside in the natural light, it really pulls the green out of it. So there's that one. Moving along here, saw cut Caribbean blue bone. This one was also a gift from my mother-in-law and father-in-law for my birthday one year. This one here is, it's got a real light saw cut. A lot of the case saw cut bones are almost smooth, but you can see it. This side a little better, but overall a really pretty color. It's unique. It's an odd blue, but it's very pretty. So there's that one. Here's another blue one that I picked up on eBay. Most of these came from eBay. If they weren't a gift, they came off eBay, and a few of them I picked up at antique stores and things. This one here was pretty special. I got a pretty good price on this one. Got this off eBay for like $35, $40. Most of these I got about $40 in. I'll just tell you right now, I don't give much more than $40 for a case trapper. You can get them on eBay secondhand in like new condition for $40 all day, and they're just as good as a brand new one. Plus, you get good pictures of them, and you can kind of tell if they've got gaps or some problems. Some problems you won't know until you receive the knife, but this one here looks pretty good. I love the way the blue fades, and the American flag shield, of course, that just sets it off. I'm just grabbing these randomly, guys. There's no form or function to what I'm picking up here. This one here, y'all saw in my most carried knife video. I got this particular knife at an antique store. It was you see how faded this bone is in the middle here? This knife was just, I'll just be honest with you, it was ugly, but it was on sale for like 20 bucks. And I was like, man, I can't hardly pass up a case trapper for 20 bucks. So I thought about taking it home and trying to dye the handles. But instead, I took it to work, and I took a torch and I kind of burned the edges of it a little bit. And while it's still not the prettiest knife in the world, it looks better than it did. And this knife has a surprisingly good action. This is a very snappy action on this case trapper. You'll notice I got a little crazy one day at work and took a carbide deburr tool and put a little bit of jimping on the back of the blade. Just so if you were using it, you know, kind of like that, you'd have a little something to get some grip with your finger, or if you were using your thumb. And it actually works out pretty good. Most of these case knives are too nice for me to go and be grinding on with a deburr bit, but this one here seemed to be the right one for the project. And I actually wound up giving this knife to my oldest son. I gave this knife to my oldest boy, and he carries it, and he really likes it. So I'm happy that he does. But yeah, that one's stainless steel as well. All right, moving along. Here's one that's pretty special. I'm going to do a video on the couple of buffalo horn knives that I have in the future, but this is buffalo horn. And in my opinion, you know, bone handles are cooler than synthetics in my opinion. I mean, a yellow synthetic is pretty classic of a case knife, but I like the natural bone. And so this one here is, You know, you've got your stag knives, which are very unique and very cool, have a lot of character. But this buffalo horn is right there with it, in my opinion. Now, of course, this is jigged. This is buffalo horn is not like this in the wild. They have taken a smooth handle and put that jigging in there, which I guess if you didn't put the jigging on there, it might just look like plastic. But anyway, Case jigs their buffalo horn. But the cool thing about this knife, and the cool thing about the other buffalo horn knife that I have, is that when I bought these, neither one of them, I don't think the seller realized they were buffalo horn. I was at the flea market when I bought this one, and I'm talking about like an outdoor redneck flea market, the best kind. A guy had a bunch of knives, and I've bought knives from him in the past, and I've bought a knife or two from him since this one. But he had a bunch of his expensive knives in a glass top case, and you could look at them. He'd hand them to you. He'd tell you how much you wanted for them. And most of his knives, he was pretty much right on the secondary market as far as prices go. This knife was sitting in a cardboard box off to the side, and I immediately recognized it because I had already bought the other one, and the jigging is similar on all these buffalo horn. I immediately recognized it. I dug it out of the bottom of that box, picked it up, pulled open the, pulled open the blade. There's a BH instead of a 6, BH buffalo horn. I opened it up, I saw that, I closed it up, I said, hey, how much you take for this one? He took it out of my hand, he opened the blade. I don't know which blade he opened, it was probably this one, but he opened it up, and I immediately thought, oh yeah, he's fixing to tell me he wants, $80 for it because it's buffalo horn. But he didn't. He opened it up, he looked at it, he closed it, he said, I'll take 40. And so I snatched $40 out of my wallet and handed it to him and took off with it. And so that was a pretty good deal. A full-size trapper in buffalo horn, easily $100 on eBay, sometimes more. And this one's in great shape. Like I said, this one's constructed very well too. And I'm just tickled to have this one in the collection. This one is like my stag knives. It doesn't even stay in the collection. It pretty much just has a spot on the desk of its own. Moving on with the black trappers. Here's one. I think they call this pitch black. Not totally positive. This also has what I think is the barn board jigging. And like I said, I could be wrong, but I think that's what they call this. This one here is cool. It's got the where the black fades out a little bit more on this side. On the edges, it fades out a little bit. This show side here is darker all the way around. This one you get a little more fade on the ends and on the edges. But another great knife. Just I got a good deal on all of these. That's the reason I have so many. Trapper knives are very common, and so you're able to get these on eBay pretty cheap. Sometimes you'll even be surprised at how cheap somebody will have a typical trapper listed for. All right, here's another one. These are very common. I see this particular blue with this shield all the time. I think I got this for like $30, and normally when I see them, they're $40, $45. But this was just a knife. I didn't necessarily think there was anything special about it. I like the blue. It's a good looking knife. But it was just one of those that was such a good deal that I said, hey, I've been itching for a new knife, and that's the best deal I found, so I picked it up. So pretty typical trapper right here. All right, now I saved these two. This isn't the last of them, but these two both have the script shield. This one down here is in the cursive script. This one up here is in the manuscript. These are neat. I actually got this one for like $35 on eBay. Couldn't believe it. Scrolling through there, checking out the knives. This one popped up $35. Oh man, I ain't never bought a knife so fast in my life. I don't remember if this was the first script knife I had bought. It may have been the second, but I really like those script shields. Now you have to take care of these. Case glues these shields in, and a lot of times you'll see these on eBay and they'll be missing the entire C, or they'll be missing the double X or something. So you kind of gotta, you kind of gotta take care of these knives. I wouldn't consider this an everyday knife. This is more like one you'd take if you were going out to town or taking the wife out to dinner or whatever. It's still a big knife, but if you were banging this thing around every day, you'd probably wind up losing part of this, and that's just part of it with the case knife. Same deal with this one. Oh, I should have mentioned, this is goldenrod. The color bone is goldenrod, and they make these in a lot of different patterns. I would love to have a copper lock in this color with this shield, but I haven't been able to find one at a decent price yet. This one here is just what they call antique bone. I'm 99% sure I'm right on that, antique bone. And it's got the a little bit different style of a script shield, but it's got the script shield nonetheless. Carrying on with that, I'm going to show you another trapper. This is large saddlehorn. This is a trapper. It's got a Spey blade and a clip point. Y'all have seen this one, or some of y'all may have seen this one. I've got a whole video dedicated to this knife that I made right after I purchased it. This is just a big old honking knife. I can barely keep it in the frame here. That is some more Spey blade right there. Almost reminds me of a cotton sampler blade, but it has the same shield. And this big old knife has half stops. It's just a really cool knife. I actually bought this knife from the same guy that I bought the buffalo horn trapper from. So that's where this one came from. The same seller at the same flea market. And I got a pretty good price on this one considering what they go for on eBay. I got this one for like $65. And that's what he asked for it. I didn't try to haggle him. I gave the man the money, and I was tickled with it because these are highly expensive on eBay. The full-size saddle horns, they fetch a lot of money. So there's that one. I got several more. Here's my last standard case trapper. Well, it's not a standard because it's a 3-blade. This is the what they call the hunter trapper, and it's really cool. You've got your clip blade, okay. You've got a gut hook, which is pretty neat, and lastly, you have got a saw. So this is just a really handy little tool to have out camping, and really neat little knife. I picked this one up on eBay too. The seller had this listed as an equine knife, and I've seen those equine knives before with the little hoof pick. I think they thought that's what this was, but it's clearly a gut hook. And so yeah, pretty cool little 3-blade. So the number for this one will be a 6354. But just a really cool knife. This knife is built extremely well, considering there's a whole extra set of liners and back spring. There is absolutely no gapping on this knife whatsoever. Very happy with this one. I got a good deal on this one too, being the fact that it was mislabeled. I think they only asked $50 for it. And when I've looked at these in the, since then, I see them all the time for 100, 125. So I got pretty lucky on this one as well. I've got 3 mini trappers here. This one here goes along with, it's the same color, even though it's a little different. It's technically the same color as this one, the whiskey bone. This one does have CV blades. The whiskey bone knives all had CV blades, so I've got a nice stag mini trapper here that y'all may have saw in a stag video. And I've got this other one that I acquired recently. This is a single-bladed Warncliffe mini trapper in stag. And y'all saw this one if y'all watched my stag video. If you haven't, go check it out. So there's that one, single-bladed Warncliffe. This one's just your standard 2-blade mini trapper. Big fat stag on that side. Not a lot of character going on here, but big old fat piece of stag. This side looks pretty good. This one here is stainless blades. And then, like I said, here's the mini version of the pocket worn whiskey bone. Nice little knife right here. All right, moving along. I have a dog leg trapper. If y'all watch Big J's knives, he was reviewing one of these and the shield fell out. and he posted it was either an Instagram reel or a YouTube short, but it said, "This knife fell apart on me mid video. Can you guess what happened?" And I guessed, "Hey, I bet the shield fell out of it." And he said, "You're exactly right." And the reason I thought that is because I bought this knife without the shield, and I got it for like $25, $27 maybe. And I had no idea how big these dogleg knives were. They almost look like a peanut. So when you're just looking at a picture and you don't have any experience with a dogleg trapper, you don't realize how big they are. But it's a good bit bigger than a normal trapper. I mean, not a lot, but it's bigger. The other cool thing about a dogleg is it has half stops, which is pretty neat. But yeah, I guessed that the shield fell out, and he said, "You're exactly right," because I bought this one without it, and I got it for a pretty good price because of that. These knives came out in 1985, if I can get that on there, and that's the year I was born, so I thought that was kind of neat. If you see what I did here, I had already called Case and was going to send this knife back, and they were going to try to find the correct shield and put back in it for me, but I got totally impatient, and I figured out that the end of a 45 Colt round fit the spot perfectly, and I threw some epoxy in there and I put that thing in there. This was a 45 Colt that I actually fired myself. You see the primer's been struck, and I've had people say, "Oh man, I really like that, that's cool," you know, and it kind of resembles those Winchester cartridge knives, the way they're constructed with their shield. But I think it's the cartridge knives. I may be wrong, but anyway, I think Winchester has some knives like this. But anyway, part of me wishes that I would have just sent it back, because if I had sent it back, then the shield would have matched the blade edge of the National Knife Collectors of 1985. So I'm kind of torn about it. I'll say this: if this ever falls out, I'll send it back, but I don't want to risk damaging the knife by trying to pick that out, so I guess I'll just let it hang around. I don't think it looks bad necessarily. Part of me wishes it was correct. So anyway, you'll see another knife like this in a few minutes. I've got one made by Frost Cutlery that I'll show you. Same pattern. Let me throw this one in here fast. This is another dogleg trapper. This is a Bulldog brand, and it's a genuine stag knife. I showed this one briefly in my stag video. This is another knife I inherited from my father-in-law when he passed away. It wasn't until my mother-in-law passed away as well that we started going out there to the house and going through some things, and I found some pretty neat old knives. And of course, my wife, you know, she's letting me hold on to them. These will all go to my sons one day, since they were their grandpa's knives. But for now, I'm holding on to them and taking care of them, maintaining them. But this is a Bulldog brand, and from Germany, handmade, and it does in fact say Soligen Germany. I know a lot of people, you know, they're big on that Soligen. So that's what this one is. I believe this steel to be stainless, but it sharpens and acts like CV, or not CV, but chrome. I'm sorry, it acts like carbon steel. I'm in case knife mode. But it's a, you see how it's tarnished a little, but yet it won't take a real patina. So I think all that tarnishing and all that discoloration is just from the knife sitting for so long in my father-in-law's things. Because when we found this, it was in like a jewelry box, no telling how long it had just been laying there. But I need to take this knife to work and have those blades tested. They have a little gun at work that can analyze material, and I need to carry this one and see what kind of steel that is. It'd be interesting to find out. All right, now I'm going to get into some kind of some more budget knives. This is a whitetail cutlery, which is a Frost knife. I don't think it says Frost on here anywhere, but I'm almost positive that Frost made these knives. There's nothing on that tang. Anyway, this knife here, I got at a flea market for like $5 or $6. Um, this knife doesn't have the half stops that the case knife has, and the action on this Spey blade is just ridiculously lazy. I mean, there's nothing to it. I was when I bought the knife, I picked it up and looked at it, and I was kind of excited about it being a dogleg trapper because I had just bought this other one. But yeah, nothing special about this one. It's just a cheap old frost knife. I rarely ever get it out. It just kind of sits in the drawer. Here's another one. This is a Steel Warrior by Frost. This has the what I believe to be genuine ram's horn covers. You wouldn't think that a Frost knife would have genuine, ram's horn covers, but when you look at it, you can kind of see into it, and it just looks like genuine horn to me, the way it's textured and everything. I got this knife for Christmas from my sister one year, and you wouldn't believe it, but I actually made half stops on this knife. Do you see that? I didn't do it the proper way because I didn't want to take the knife apart. But basically all a half stop is where the end of the blades, they're squared off instead of round. And they're squared off at a 90-degree angle so that when you open the knife, the backspring closes against the square edge of the butt of the knife right there. So with this being a cheaper knife, and I wasn't too concerned about modifying it a little bit, I took a Dremel tool with a little cutoff wheel, and I actually got down in there very gently, and I ground the backs of those blades flat. I wouldn't suggest doing this on a nice knife, because if it does go bad, you don't want to ruin a good, expensive knife. But if you have a little cheap knife that you want to experiment with, that's all I did. I took a Dremel tool with a little cutoff wheel, and I went back and forth right here, and I tried to stay off the liners, but as close to them as I could, and it actually worked. I mean, you can see when it hops to a half stop. Anyway, that's another knife I don't really carry much, but anyway, still pretty cool. That's a mini trapper. All right, here's one that's kind of neat. I'm a big shotgun guy, and my favorite brand of shotgun is Mossberg. And I just happened to be looking on eBay at the trappers one day, and this one said, Mossberg Trapper like a case. So the reason that it popped up is because somebody had typed case in the description, so case and trapper, it popped up in my search. But when I saw this, I was like, oh man, it's a daggone Mossberg brand, which I don't know who made it really. It's just tank stamp Mossberg, stainless china. So I don't really know who made these. I don't think it was the same kind of place that does Rough Riders, because if it were, I'm sure it would have match strike pulls, and it doesn't. But this knife isn't bad. It's got decent action. The handle's constructed pretty well. And I haven't used it much, but it's sharpened up pretty good. I can shave my arm with it. So yeah, there's that. Little off-brand Mossberg trapper. All right, now here's something that I may get around to doing a video on one day. I'm not a huge fan of Rough Riders. I have a couple. They're great knives for the price, and everybody tells you that. That's the big thing. They're good knives for what you pay for them, and that's fine. I don't get the pride of ownership out of a Rough Rider that I do out of a case knife. I mean, whether or not they're good knives for the price, they're still made in China. So when I'm at church with the other guys there that collect pocket knives, am I going to whoop out a Rough Rider and be like, hey guys, check this out, No, probably not. I think anybody that's in the knife community can appreciate a Rough Rider for what they are. But for me, I just don't get the pride of ownership out of a Rough Rider. So sometimes when I just need to buy a knife to scratch the itch, sometimes a Rough Rider gets the job done. This one here is pretty cool. You know, I'm a big 2A supporter. I love my guns. This is a Don't Tread on Me with the Gadsden flag image on it. This is a decent knife. That's all etched in, similar to how the case knife is. It's pretty shallow. You can barely feel it, but you can feel it. And it's a pretty nice looking shade of yellow, and it is a bone handle, so that's pretty cool. It's dyed smooth bone. You know, you've got your typical blades here: Spey blade, secondary, clip master. The only thing about a Rough Rider versus a case that I really don't like is look how small the cap is on a Rough Rider trapper. It just looks dinky compared to the case. Y'all may like that. Some people may like that. I prefer the thicker cap. The bolsters are pretty close to being the same size, but the cap on the Rough Rider's much smaller. But yeah, this knife here probably went about 15 bucks brand new. I got lucky with it that it's got good action because some of my Rough Riders don't have that great of action. I've got a Congress knife that's a Rough Rider that I bought at the flea market, and 2 out of the 4 blades are just lazy as they can be. This one here I bought simply because it has a razor blade. This knife has a pretty good action too. So out of the Rough Riders I own, I can't really complain too much about them. You know, they're not terrible. They're not as polished as a case knife. These Rough Riders that I have, what shine you do see is where I tried to polish it with some Mother's Mag polish. They didn't come this way. I've polished on them pretty hard. But that one had that razor blade, which I thought was cool, and then it's got the standard clip blade there too. So this knife here I bought when I first joined eBay as like a real member, I guess you'd call it. I got a little bit of a discount card, a little gift card thing, and I used it towards this knife, and I got this knife for literally just a couple of bucks after using that gift card. So yeah, this one here is pretty neat too. So that's the collection. That is the Trapper collection as it stands right now. Now here's what I want to talk about. And I'm not trying to stir up drama. I'm very happy that I've been kind of taken into the YouTube knife community. I talked to several of what I call the heavy hitters in the YouTube knife community, and I respect all those guys. But there's a few people out there, and there's a lot of guys on Instagram that I follow that post knives, and they just cannot stand that a traditional trapper, has a Spey blade. Because I guess the only thing you can do with a Spey blade is cut balls off, right? I mean, it's not good for anything else. What on earth could I do with a Spey blade besides cut the balls off of an animal? Can you think of anything? Well, I can. And just to be clear, I live out in the country, and I have used a Spey blade for its intended purpose. That's right, I have gotten out in the barn with grandpa and great uncle, and we have castrated pigs and things like that with a pocket knife. So I understand about all that tradition and all that stuff, and I know a lot of guys out there probably never thought of holding a pig down and cutting its balls off with a pocket knife, but that's just how things used to get handled, you know. You just didn't call the vet for everything, you know. But with that being out of the way, because I haven't done that in years. As a matter of fact, I was a kid when we did all that stuff. So at the age of about 12, I was in the barn with grandpa and my great uncle, who I consider to be just the men among men. And we did stuff like that. But here's what I want to show. This was just something that kind of came to me while I was fiddling around one day. So people say, I don't like that trapper. I don't have any use for that Spey blade, right? Well, check this out. I'm going to carefully pull these blades together. Now look right here. Tell me what the huge difference in those blades are, okay? I mean, look, they're both straight all the way up till about the same point, and the daggum radius on those blades at the tip is nearly identical. The only difference is right here. That's the only difference. And the reason that's there is so you don't over penetrate when you are cutting the skin of an animal when you're trying to castrate it. So here's the thing. Besides the fact that this blade is a little more stabby, which you should not be doing with a slip joint anyway, that's the best way to get that thing folded up on your fingers, with the only difference being this angle tip, this little bit more blunt tip. What on earth can you do with that clip point that you can't do with a Spey blade? All right. Now, that blade right there will slice an apple, peel it, slice an apple. You can sharpen a pencil with a Spey blade just as easy as you can a clip point. You can scrape gasket material off the heads of your old small block Chevy when you're rebuilding it. You can easily open a cardboard box with it, open a letter with it. It'll cut rope, it'll cut twine, weed eater line, whatever. I mean, I've carried a knife like this for a long time. And if I grab that clip point blade out and it's not hardly sharp enough and it needs touched up, I pull that Spey blade out and I do exactly what I was going to do with the clip point with that Spey blade right there. So I just don't understand how people act like the only functional blade on this trapper is that clip blade. Because there's people out there that'll say, I don't like a trapper. I don't have no use for that Spey blade. It's just another knife. It's just another blade. It'll sharpen up. And I'm telling you, they're so similar. Okay? They are so similar that when you get right down to the blade shape, they are so similar. There's just not a lot of difference to them other than the blunt tip right here. You can skin a deer with a blade like this. You can skin a deer with this blade if you're careful. So anyway, I'm not trying to ruffle anybody's feathers. If you just don't like a trapper, then that's fine. You don't like a trapper. I know RJ's Knives likes trappers. Jersey Knife Guy likes his trappers. I like my trappers. And I don't understand the hate of the Spey blade. I don't know if it's just in people's minds that they don't like the idea of that. Like I said, I grew up on the farm, so I just, this kind of thing doesn't bother me at all. You know, a knife's a knife. I mean, you can get out there and sharpen up a daggum hand file, put you a fancy handle on it and say, hey, I got me a knife here. If the tip didn't work out just like you wanted it to, it may look more like a Spey blade, but it's still going to cut and you're going to be proud of it. So yeah, that's all I want to say about the old Spey blade. I think it's misunderstood. I think that it can do just about any job that any other knife can do. And so anyway, I'm running on about 40 minutes here, so I'm going to let y'all go. But tell me what you think about the Spey blade. Did everything I say make sense, or do you have any kind of rebuttal to what I've said? I understand what the Spey blade's for. I understand the design of it. But as far as everyday task, I think it's just as capable as the clip blade. So I don't understand why there's so many people out there that hate on it. But anyway, I'll let y'all get out of here. Please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about my trapper collection. I had a lot of knives out here today, so I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I enjoyed making it, so I hope y'all did enjoy viewing it. And we'll see y'all later.